Welcome to Below the Line, where we talk about working in Hollywood from the crew perspective. My name is Skid. I'm a former assistant director and your host.
Quiet on the set.
Welcome back for episode 8 of our 7th annual Oscars series, where subject matter experts discuss the nominees and their category of expertise. Whether you're listening to the podcast or watching us on YouTube, thanks for being here. Today's category is Best Director, and I've got a panel of returning guests. Katie Carroll, you're a member of the Directors Guild, currently working as a first AD on Lincoln Lawyer Season 5. Nice to see you.
Thanks, Kid. Happy to be back.
Glad to have you. Bill Hardy, you're a DGA member, first AD, and sometime producer. Welcome back as well.
Thanks, Kid. I'm happy to be here.
We're glad you could make it. And down at the end of the row, we have Shaun O'Banionto, who is still not a member of the DGA, but is a member of the Producers Guild of America. Glad you could join us.
Thanks, Kid. Happy to be here. I look forward to this every year, so glad to be back.
Well, you really sound like it.
We will press you on your enthusiasm as we go. Let's get right into it. The 2025 films recognized for the work of the director are Hamnet, Marty Supreme, One Battle After Another, Sentimental Value, and Sinners. We're going to discuss them in that order, and spoilers are possible, so consider this a warning. When I introduce each film, I'll also recognize the director by name. Please accept my apologies in advance for any mispronunciations. My guests, of course, are welcome to correct me. First up, Hamnet, directed by Chloé Zhao.
I think for me, the film is an exercise in restraint. It felt to me like a deeply interior literary work, not surprising since it is to some extent about Shakespeare and his family. It felt incredibly cinematic, but it never felt like she was overselling. It never felt like she was pushing the emotion on you. And so I think this idea of like character's emotional perspective over any sort of narrative mechanics, it's not a plot driven movie. It's a movie about grief, about memory, about parenthood, about absence. And as a director, she commits to that completely. It's so like naturalism, but it's very controlled. You can tell there's a very sure hand there guiding everything, guiding those performances of Jessie Buckley and Paul Mescal and the rest of the cast. And I also think because of its period, she uses environment not as a backdrop, but as part of that emotional content in some way. All of the settings feel as if they're part of the skin of the story. And so I think, as opposed to some other directors, I think we'll talk about some of the other films, she was very much aiming inward for Hamnet, and smaller gestures sort of become the whole movie. And I think that's very hard to pull off. And so, she trusts the audience to fill in some of that. The Max Richter score, there's no score telling you how to feel about things. It's kind of all there for you to absorb. And so I think Chloé Zhao is sort of saying, like, I know how quiet I can be with this film and still hold your attention. And I think that's not accidental. I think that's craft.
Agreed. I would say like the production design and costume design were phenomenal. Besides the direction, it was just the tightness of those sets. What's going on? Sorry, there I am. I swear to God.
We need to control your light levels, Katie.
I'm working
Katie
on it.
Just went into witness protection while we're recording.
Whoa. But yeah, so the production design, like how tight some of those rooms were, how close they were, but also how we tended to only see the rooms from like one point of view. What? I'm going to move. But I'll talk. You only tend to see those rooms from like one point of view. You never saw like the third wall or the fourth wall of the twins' bedroom. You never saw the back wall of somebody else's house, I think it was. It was almost like a lot of three-wall sets, which is just hugely phenomenal in my mind. And then costumes of never seeing like they always wore the same thing, always, which felt very, very real to me.
Yeah, I think it's funny that you point out the three wall thing, and then Shaun said cinematic. The first thing that I wrote down was like a play vibes, like But I completely see what you're saying too. Both of you were saying. I was about to say Shaun, but it's it's a play and a movie. Like it's got the intimate pieces that you need the film cinematic up close for, but at the same time, it's here's your space, just go ahead and play it out in it kind of presentation. I really liked it, but at the same time, halfway through, I wasn't sure as an audience member whether I was supposed to know the Shakespeare thing or whether I was supposed to have figured it out by that point I mean, because there's a certain point where it's very obvious, like you're like, whoa, I'm walking into the Globe. That guy, the husband, was saying an awful lot of lines from Romeo and Juliet in the last scene. Like I'm not sure I'm not sure what she was trying to do there exactly. Not a criticism. I'm just not sure that part. And I can't tell if that's marketing that has screwed me up. I don't know. You guys tell me.
Well, I only saw it a few weeks ago, so I had heard that that was the reveal, so to speak. So I knew going in. I thought it was interesting how they never specifically said the name Will Shakespeare until it's revealed that it's Will Shakespeare. But yeah, so I that is a fair question. Like, are we supposed to know? Are we supposed to figure out? Is it supposed to be like a twist? And this just is how he dealt with the grief, how Anne dealt with the grief, or how is that different than other parents from that time frame dealing with the grief of this? Like, why is that important? That's the only thing that's kind of interesting to me that I'm not sure I'm in on.
I don't think it was supposed to be a reveal. I think they're not just a marketing decision. I think it's the book decision. I think people that read the book weren't surprised that it was Shakespeare either. I think the intent is, and I have not read the book, but I think the intent was, from my take, and again, no insights on this, Shaun. Maybe you know more because you were looking into it, but to explore grief and how this they were able to process it, but completely within the context of Shakespeare and Hamlet and this. I think I don't think it was supposed to be a reveal.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, again, people based on a book, so people that knew the books knew what was coming. I think it's just an interesting way to frame it, by being about somebody historical that we know about, and within that saying like, here's an interesting time period in the world. Here's an interesting time period in London. Here's an interesting,
And that was certainly the way I was taking it. That was certainly I'm sorry, Shaun, for cutting you off. That's certainly the way I was taking it when I was watching it. But when the reveal hit, that's when I was like, oh shit, did I miss something? Like I wasn't sure whether I was being too artsy fartsy, knowing stuff ahead of time, or yeah. But I really did enjoy it. It was one of those where I've complained about it before. A tree blowing in the wind. Sure, let's show that for 7 minutes straight. I was worried because I think what's the last one? Nomad was
Nomadland, yeah.
Nomadland.
Yeah. Nomadland was kind of like that too. It was more like here's a pile of dirt. And let's look at it.
Well, she had a Marvel movie in between that too.
I know. Well, yeah, but that one, I don't know how that happened. I feel like that's a whole other conversation. We could talk for 2 hours on that. I don't know how it happened. And I don't mean that necessarily in a bad way either. It is. I don't like that. I don't like Eternals, but I certainly liked this movie a hell of a lot more than Eternals. And Shakespeare has been one of my favorite Marvel characters for a while.
Well, The other thing that I think is noteworthy in this, or that I was thinking about, and it's about what Chloé Zhao brings to it. There's certain things she's done in her other films, and again, we're going to set Eternals aside. Although I think I know what Marvel was going for there. I'm going to say it's the Taika Waititi, fingers crossed, kind of hope when they hired her for that. But there are elements of how she approaches these things, some of these wide shots, some of these long takes, some of the ways things are framed that really worked with Hamnet, right? That I think shows some continuity of her work, that she was the right director to make this work, like this story, for me anyway.
I like everybody getting to see our head nods too.
So we can see when we're in agreement or not on that.
In agreement, yeah.
All right. Well, let's take that on to our second film. That is Marty Supreme, directed by Josh Safdie. Bill, why don't you kick us off? What were your thoughts on this one?
I was going to say, well, this guy was not in Oppenheimer. That's how the rest of you out there in the world can associate. The one that didn't make the movie with The Rock.
You're talking about distinguishing the two brothers, you mean, how it was split.
Yeah, because this one is not I believe it's the first one that's not a Safdie brothers film. The other one made Smashing Machine this year, which at least that guy really existed, I think is my main takeaway of these two. I thought that Marty Supreme I really wanted the Skid always knows that I'll fall in for any time it's a period movie with lots of spectacle. And what was the Hollywood movie with Margot Robbie a couple of years ago?
Babylon.
Babylon, spectacle out the wazoo. Loved that. Like, but no, I don't think anybody else did. But this one,
I liked it. I liked Babylon.
This one had that spectacle effect, production value out the wazoo, which is, it's a technical movie term if anybody doesn't know what that is. But, I just, the character, he's not, as always, I'm going back and forth between judging the script and judging the film. I have trouble separating the two because of my AD background. Like, yeah, the background, we're all dressed and there and in the frame, and there was a lot of action going on. I was like, yeah, and people talk over top of one another. I'm like, both of the brothers have a very Altman-esque quality like that I can really get into. And as you guys know, I love Dune. So I was like, oh, okay, well, here we go. Muad'Dib playing ping pong. Let's do this. And no, I just wasn't. I just couldn't get into it because there's no. He doesn't really exist. He's based on a real guy. Okay, but why are we telling the story? Like, I couldn't. This character really felt morally bankrupt to me. Like, his redemption comes at the very end, which is just because somebody told him that his baby mama went into labor. All of a sudden, now he's a good guy in the last 5 minutes of the movie, and I was like, I don't. He's still an asshole.
But like, even then, his baby mama went into labor, yet he still goes to Japan.
Right. Like,
yeah. So he's still not a good guy. It's like, oh, okay, good to know. And
he proves that he's an asshole, and then just because, like, was that supposed to make a difference in his mind? And if it certainly is presented like it was supposed to have somehow redeemed him, that now fatherhood was now, at least that's the way it felt. But I didn't, of all the stuff that they had Chalamet give us with his face, if you will, as opposed to his dialogue, that was one transition that was not presented at all. It was all dialogue. I think it was off-screen dialogue. It was a transition between quick cuts. And they're like, oh, okay, no, get me to the hospital. Now I love her. I thought Odessa Asian was fantastic. I love her mother and stuff, and she's just like a younger version of her mother, Pamela Adlon. And I thought her performance was fantastic. Chalamet, I personally thought, I think that Muad'Dib is more of an asshole in Dune Messiah. I think he's so method that he was probably he was still Muad'Dib. He was Muad'Dib Supreme. And that's just my personal guess.
I think they shot this before Dune 3 got underway. So I think
That's
anything,
unacceptable answer.
If there's more, we'll have to see if there's more ping pong in Dune 3 with the direction things went. But all right. Well, Katie, you kind of maybe suggested you're rolling with Bill on this, but so it's Shaun. What did you think?
I guess I guess I agree. I mean, the one thing that I would say is like the movie did a lot of things that surprised me, which is hard to do. There were a lot of things that happened that I was like, well, that just seems out of left field, but okay, and I was kind of along for it. Their movies, the Safdie brothers, they've always been about kind of chaotic stuff and characters being thrown into situations. So it felt of their, of their body of work, I guess, even together and now separately. But yeah, I would agree. I kind of was like, how do we really need another story about an asshole white guy? Whatever,
or at
period
least
he's
a
in,
2 hour, 2 hour and 40 minute movie about.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Well, I'll weigh in with a counter then, because this was one of my favorites this year. To be honest, I don't disagree that he is an asshole. Where I disagree is I don't think that it's meant to redeem him at the end. I think it's meant to undercut out of his view of self. I think, and I think the fact that he's such an asshole, I don't think the film ever judges him either way. And I think that's where the kind of the honestly, I'll say the brilliance of the movie is that it carries through with such energy from scene to scene that the fact that he's an asshole, the movie never really even slows down to deal with that. It just rolls on to something else. And I was thoroughly entertained for the whole, as you said, I don't have it like 2 hours and 40 minutes. I know it was long, but it didn't feel long to me going through and just sort of carried through in a way that I think that's to Josh's credit. Now, you brought up the Smashing Machine. I did have to watch that because it was nominated for makeup and hairstyling, and that is not a good movie. Even the hair and makeup stylists didn't like that movie.
I so wanted a history of the early UFC, and it was not that at all. But that's a different podcast entirely.
And there's a rumor that the brothers aren't talking over this. I don't know what's going. I have not dug into that as well, but that came up on the other podcast. Anyway, but no, I really like this film. Now, again, if it strikes you, if you never get on board with Timothée Chalamet, I can totally see this movie being a grind to get through. But I don't think the movie is really suggesting this asshole is a good guy or that he even gets it at the end. I think it's more observational and to the credit of the direction. I just think a lot of that stuff works. But that's my take on it.
And I'm not saying I don't love a movie about an asshole. It just for this, I'm just not on board this particular asshole.
Katie, you said a couple of things in agreement with Bill, but yeah, did you have more you wanted to add to that?
I don't think I needed 2 hours and 40 minutes of this asshole. I mean, yes, some of the scrapes he gets into were interesting and fantastic to watch, like the chaos. I didn't mind that part. It was more of, there are definitely some things you could edit down. If it were 2 hours and 10 minutes, 2 hours and 15 minutes, I might be on board better because I think it's just less assholeness. I'm okay with that.
And I didn't mention the music. Like we should probably talk about that too. Like the choice to use the not anachronistic, is that the right word?
Yes. Contemporary needle drops,
it's not it's not contemporary for when the film's being made or when the movie's taking place. It's when the director was a kid. So, that's a question I'm not sure I got either. I'm not sure why.
Was torn on that. Like, either we need more of it, because there were 4 or 5 songs in my mind through the whole thing. That's at most 15 minutes out of 240. So either a lot more or other 80s things to kind of, I don't know, I'm not sure, but I don't think it totally worked. I think you needed more to it to really bring in that anachronistic up at all.
I don't know. It worked for me.
I have to agree.
And again, I'll stand alone on this one. It worked for me. And I think if, as far as what the film is saying, I do think it's saying something about post-war America in the world. And I think that use of other music, and even, it's not trying to be a period piece in that sense, but I think it's commenting on that through a lens of today. And I think there's a lot going on, and I really enjoyed it. I am not sorry that it's on this list, for what it's worth.
I just think it's weird because the 80s are further away from now than they would be from the time that the movie took place. So it's like, if it were now music, or like just 10 years ago when you probably thought of the idea, okay, maybe, but like, why 80s? And I understand maybe it has to do with Josh, but then it's not about the movie.
The fact that I kept thinking morally bankrupt, and like maybe it has something to do with the moral bankruptcy of the 80s. Probably not.
That's another level I can't get into.
All right. Well, last thoughts on Marty Supreme before we move on? Hearing none and seeing no hands, we will move on to One Battle After Another, directed by Paul Thomas Anderson.
I'm a big Paul Thomas Anderson fan in general. I think there's only one film in his filmography that I've not loved. But I think this movie in particular is just him operating at full confidence. He's not flashy here. He's not trying to apologize for any of it. He's just completely assured, and he's in command of like every element. And I do know some behind the scenes of what it took to make this movie and how it was evolving even throughout production. I mean, there were delays for things. The whole end sequence was created during scouting. There's a lot of interesting moves that happen. I know that his first AD, Adam Sumner, who was also his producer, has passed. For those that don't know, Sumner was, firsting for Spielberg and firsting for Scorsese. And I mean, like, top of the line guy. And some of what they were doing was so chaotic in the production that it was mirroring the chaos of the film, I think. But Paul Thomas Anderson directs people in a way that it's not just a performance anymore. It's who's interrupting where and when the camera is moving and how the camera is moving. There are a couple shots in this movie where the camera is attached to an open car door that the actor then slams, and the camera goes right into their face. And so blocking and movement, and that's all a part of his storytelling. And yet at the same time, it's also a long movie, and some of the scenes go sort of past where you feel comfortable, where you feel like this scene should end now, but we're going to sit and watch behavior for another minute or two. But I never felt it was indulgence. I feel like it's part of the pressure that he's building, and he waits until a scene reveals what it's actually about, whatever the subtext of that is. The performances for me felt very real and discovered, not sort of imposed or scripted. And I believe that he gives everyone space to sort of find things, and there's nothing in there that for me screams directing. And that's why I think it's great directing. And I think, he's been taking home a lot of the awards this year. You could say it's a body of work thing, but I really don't think it is in this case. I think it's really well deserved.
Hard agree. This was 2 hours and 40 minutes that flew by. Fascinating performances, really great, interesting camera shots that also helped tell the story. Even a lot of the smaller supporting characters really helped tell the story, like the kids that are jumping across rooftops with their skateboards, that I loved them. Like all small characters that are just the nuns. I love the nuns. What is the Christmas group? Like, just almost all of their work, they're just sitting there and talking. But I love how they approach it. Or, spoiler alert, the assassin who has a Lacoste polo. See, that's anachronistic, but that works in this time because that just tells you something about his character. And it's hard to do a car chase different. There's so many car chases out there and so many movies. It's so hard to do something new and different. And this was not just one of the best car chases I've seen, but so new and so different and built tension to such a higher degree. Loved everything about this movie.
Of course, and then it is a direct rip off of what is it, Bullet, right?
Yeah.
The dip,
Yes.
the dip and come back up.
Yeah.
But
he just extended it for.
Oh yeah, no,
miles.
it's
Yes.
beautiful. It's beautiful. Everything you both said. It's almost, and it was one of those. I was so satisfied. I was like, I don't even have anything to say. Like, I took notes as I was watching, knowing that this was going to happen eventually on most of the movies that I really liked, and I was like, I don't even know what to say. It's just right there. Like yeah. Benicio del Toro was he's the one thing. When I think about this movie, for some, I know before I had seen anything, I would think of Leo on the phone, because I think that's the clip that I kept seeing over and over again. When I think back on this movie, having seen it, I just see Benicio del Toro walking, just kind of with like I don't know why,
but holding a can of beer. Also,
yeah, that character really got me.
Loved him. Yeah, can't say enough great things about this movie.
Yeah, I think I also agree. This film was great. Shaun, as you alluded to, he won for the Directors Guild earlier this month. Sometimes that's an indicator for the Oscars. And again, I also think well deserved. Katie, it's interesting. You brought up like something anachronistic. I think this movie's, at least from a historical perspective, is kind of out of time. Like, I don't think it's meant to be a specific historical. It doesn't actually work as a specific historical period. Like, it's not the Black Panthers, or it's not the 60s. It's like, I just think things are merged in a way that I got to think was intentional.
Yeah.
In a way that, and again,
I mean, they are the French 75 are loosely based on the Weather Underground, which I think was late 60s, early 70s, right? So, but the beginning of the story, those cars are vaguely 80s. I feel like all the cars they're racing around in. And then we jump 16 years. So technically, we're somewhere in the late 90s, mid to late 90s, but it's never defined.
Right.
And I think that's very specific. I've heard DiCaprio say in a couple interviews that it's almost like a weird sci-fi movie of Paul Thomas Anderson's imagination, that it exists in another world that's very much like ours, but not the same. And I definitely can see that.
But close enough to ours that it actually takes a point of view. And this is where I think, compared to like some films we had last year, and I'm thinking of like Civil War, and I'm thinking of some of these other films that purport to get close to the politics of the day, but don't actually take a side and kind of hand wave around it, or so vague. This film, I think, is really intentional, has something to say. And I think also that's why it resonates with people right now.
Well, interesting. Like, even if it came out probably when it first got started, 5-10 years ago, the white supremacists, like Sean Penn's character, would be frankly a joke. It'd be like, okay, this is almost cartoonish in how much of a bad guy he is. But the fact that it, with all of the chaos, delayed its release and it's coming out now, you're like, no, those guys actually exist in this world, and it makes it less cartoonish, yet also just the chase of it all is a little cartoonish in a great way, in a Roadrunner Coyote kind of way. That's fun to watch, of, okay, who's going to win this time? Knowing the Coyote is always going to lose, but still like, maybe one time.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I feel like the two front runners from the beginning have been Paul's movie and Chloe's movies, or those two movies. And it's interesting because I feel like Paul's movie, One Battle, is all externalized chaos and internal control, and her film is internalized emotion and external calm. And both filmmakers trust the audience. I feel like neither of them are sort of Oscar signaling in either film, and yet you just kind of go like, oh, these two movies are going to show up. These are the movies that are going to be in the conversation. And I just think it's interesting because they're two filmmakers sort of at the height of their directorial capacity, I think, and expressed in totally opposite ways. I found that really interesting.
Actually, now that you say that, I didn't even think about it, but One Battle After Another, anytime they're inside, they're almost always reacting to something that's happening outside, to what you said about external. But even when they're inside a room, something's happening outside that affects what's happening inside. So very outside. Yeah, all those locations, I can't even fathom logistically.
Yeah, very much like when when Bob comes into the dojo and the police cars go by and Bob just hits the deck on the tatamis, and then there's all this thing of like, Sergio's like, wait, take your shoes off the tatami mats, and it's just all this stuff. There's a moment where Sergio yells at someone in the perfume area for being on the phone, but Bob thinks he's yelling at him for trying to plug in his phone. He's like, I'm not on the phone. And it's just this whole thing. And Anderson has always done that really well. I mean, there's moments in Boogie Nights that are sort of like, there's like 6 things happening simultaneously and people are talking about other things and to each other and across him. And, I just think he's evolved to be able to tell this story right now. And I also think, just so you guys know, if you don't know the backstory, so Adam Sumner has been his longtime first, but this is, I believe, the first time that he's credited as full producer with him. Mm-hmm. Paul had this story for 20 years, and it was Adam Sumner who said, it's time to tell this story. And so they started to develop it, 2, 3, 4 years ago.
Wow, that's cool.
Shaun, I'm also glad you made the shout out to Adam. I think it's come up here before. I got to work with him on Seabiscuit, and he's just a great guy. We actually had him on the podcast once. He was talking about Ford versus Ferrari with a panel of guests, and he is truly missed, and really glad to see him take home the DGA award for this, and his work as the first, and he is truly missed.
And there's a really great credit to him post credits. And I don't know if you stayed long enough to watch it, but they literally like recorded him saying
his audio
of like, okay, we're rolling and roll sound and all that. But I love that they even kept the quiet, we're rolling, which into the mic, like I've done that 1,000 times. And I'm like, so even the greats, like, okay, yes, like just as
I think he curses too. I think he goes, can he curse? I think he goes, quiet. What the fuck is going on?
Definitely. If go back and watch it again, stay till the very end so you can catch that tribute to Adam as well. All right, we're going to move on to the 4th film on our list, Sentimental Value, directed by Joachim Trier.
I think it's probably Joachim
Trier.
You think so? I think I looked that one up. That one there may be some controversy on, but I'll take let you guys say it's Joaquin.
I think it's Joe Kim.
I think it's Joe Kim. But
he's not Korean, Bill. He's not Korean.
I was gonna say, if it's that tight, you're gonna go Joe Chim. What?
All right, but I'm just so glad that AI now will fix all this. Give us the right answers when we ask these days. So, all right. Well, Mr. Trier, let's talk about.
I just watched this a couple weeks ago. And I mean, it's a beautiful movie, but compared to all the others, I mean, it's even compared to Hamnet, it's so much more interior and smaller and tighter. And it's just family and family dynamics, but it is so well done and so beautiful and quiet. It's so quiet, which it's great, but it just lets you sit in it the whole time, which I loved a lot about this movie.
The funniest joke I saw all through award season is the 9-year-old opening up the DVDs of The Piano Teacher and Irreversible.
And then his mom saying, we don't even have a DVD player.
And he points at Irreversible and goes,
Monica Bellucci will change your life.
Oh my God. It's so horrible.
What are you doing?
It's so great. I was like, at the same time, I'm like, yes, Nordic. Yes, this is what I think of with all those countries that are up there where it's cold. And I'm sorry. But at the same time, like I just, death is in the background playing chess. And somehow at the same time, it's like the most lighthearted Stellan Skarsgård. It just hit me. No, never mind. You have to cut that out.
We don't cut on this one, Bill. You're stuck with it.
I know. It's all coming back to me now. I really liked the movie. It caught me off guard. I felt like it was the most lighthearted of all of them in some ways, as intense and sad as it is. It really the flashback cutaways movie within a movie, which is always dear to my heart. see Bill's senior project in film as a film major. This movie, it caught me off guard with how much I liked it, for sure. But I'm not surprised that it was on the list when I didn't make time to see it until the last couple of weeks myself.
I also just love the very small in-jokes within in-jokes about Netflix and how he's going to maybe ditch his DP, and he gets it. Oh, it blames Netflix about it. It's like, no, you changed your mind. And yeah, some small things that are just going to hit home a little much for those of us in this business.
It's interesting in that sense. That is one of the things that it has pulling for it, I think, from an awards perspective, that it is a movie about filmmaking, if not Hollywood explicitly. And I actually am surprised, though, that it's on the director's list. And I think it opens up a conversation about, I think it's very well represented in the actors categories, right? And is that to the director's credit, but not as well represented on the technical categories as a lot of the other films, I think. And so when we're talking about best director, do we need to see more moving pieces with a director's vision, or is a set of really stellar actors' performances enough to propel a director onto this list? That's just a thought exercise I'm asking all of you.
Or is it because it's about a director? Subconsciously, I didn't think about it until you said that. And I was like, well, it is about a director. So of course all the directors are going to be like, I relate to this. I don't talk to my kids enough either.
Yeah, there's definitely, I don't know if you guys follow Francesca Scorsese on any social media, but she very often gets her dad to come in, and she just very recently had him standing there, and she said, okay, Dad, I got to ask you some questions about this guy I am seeing, and
the red flag.
I want you to tell me if they're red flags or green flags. And she goes through this whole thing, and she's asking these. She was like, he likes pets, and Scorsese goes, yeah, well, that's a green flag, okay. And she's like, but he works a lot, and he's gone, and he's like, well, that's a red flag. And she's like, okay, and he's in the film industry, and he's definitely a red flag. And she's like, film industry is a red flag? He's like, yeah, because he just doesn't care about anything else but what he's doing. And she gets to the end of this whole thing, and then she goes, by the way, Dad, it's actually you. You're the person that I was talking about.
I saw that one coming.
Yeah. And then from what I've heard, there's I haven't watched it yet, but I want to, because there's an interview with Alexander Skarsgård interviewing his father on this sort of award circuit thing. And from what I understand, the brothers, the Skarsgård brothers, sort of say like, yeah, Dad, this was actually you. You weren't around much, and you were hard to deal with, and you were always in character and all this kind of stuff. It's like the parallels are interesting.
Well, we'll follow up on this.
He's been doing research his whole life.
Sorry, Katie. Go again, Katie. I talked over.
No, I was going to say. So he's been doing research his whole life for this role.
Well cast. Well cast. Was this? I don't think it's nominated on the casting for the casting Oscar this year, but clearly he's a good match on that. We will revisit it at the end when we talk about other films that maybe aren't on the list. But I do think it's noteworthy that the Directors Guild did not nominate this film. Of this slate of 5, 4 were the same, but this one was not on that list. So again, I think it was, and so I was a little surprised to see it on the Oscar list when it didn't make the DGA list. But excellent film. I really, really enjoyed it.
It was Frankenstein was the alternate, right? That's what you want to talk about it later.
We'll
talk about it later.
Where that fits in. But yeah, Frankenstein didn't make our Oscars list. But one more film before we go off book. That is Sinners, directed by Ryan Coogler.
And I think it's Ryan Coogler. Sorry.
Isn't that what I said?
Correct you on all. It is.
That's exactly what I said.
Right? Okay, you were correctly right. Exactly.
All right.
Coogler. It's not Coogler.
Beyond. Anyway.
Sinners was my favorite movie this whole year. I saw it when it came out in the summer, and I still haven't had a chance to rewatch it, but I will. This movie is fantastic and takes so many different genres and makes them all one movie. I don't think I ever thought in my lifetime I'd see a vampire movie nominated for Best Picture and or get behind that concept. And I'm totally 100% behind that concept. This movie it's just 7 different pictures in one that are truly one cohesive movie telling one story 7 different ways. It's so amazing.
I agree. And at the same time, all the different genres combined to one. I couldn't believe how many people didn't realize it was a vampire movie that said something to me after the fact. Yeah, on a certain level, it's like, what world do you live in that you didn't realize this was a vampire movie? But it's a fascinating experiment to just throw someone in and they don't pick up onto it until it is beating you over the head with it at an hour and a half into the movie. But I will say that I was not a fan of the scene, but the montage, if you will, during the dance sequence. I get it. It was a step too far for this particular movie for me.
See, that's one of the things I loved about it.
Yeah, me too. The music transcending
it's carrying
time
it on editing and music, and it's just that scene is really a calling card for the film, Bill. I'm not even sure you saw the same movie if you didn't like it.
I know it's just one of those ones where I'm the only one that
You guys still with him?
Words, Bill.
You still with him on Marty Supreme? Maybe we need to put Bill off on his own if he's going to start shit talking sinners.
I loved everything about the movie, and then I see the guy on the dance floor in the modern outfit, and that's what it just. I know it's supposed to rip you out, and I know what the scene is trying to convey. I just don't understand why it's got to be in this particular movie.
Well,
and that's a.
Did you watch it in the theater? Or did you watch it at home? Were you distracted going into that scene? If you only noticed the guy in modern clothes, maybe you weren't paying enough attention, and that's
No. I was paying attention. It's just like I feel like you can do those because it happens in other movies where I'm fine with it too. I thought about that. It's the same thing with I don't mind a movie about an asshole. Like I get a lot of the artsy stuff, if you will, in this movie that I was totally on board with, but this one particular thing, I was like, I don't know, just a different movie, just not this one.
You're wrong. I can.
That's fine.
Write a whole thing about why, but no, you're wrong.
That's fine. That's fine.
I was afraid we were going to get an episode where we didn't gang up on Bill because since you guys both had qualms about Marty Supreme earlier, but thanks, Bill, for providing that. Not related to awards season, although maybe it is. Let's say this, not related to whether this is best director or not, or how that's going to shake out. But there is, I think, almost conspiracy theory level controversy around whether the industry is very upset about Ryan Coogler's deal on this film. And in fact, studios have behind the scenes been really poo-pooing the film and knocking it around a little bit. And whether, again, there's backroom high-level studio stuff at work here, because he's going to own the movie in 10 years. And that's, I don't want to say unprecedented because I don't know, but at least at this level of film, true or not, it sounds like the other studios are pretty nervous about that being a new deal model.
Yeah, studios are always nervous when there's a new precedent set about anything.
Is it all Marvel's fault anyway? That's a whole nother conversation, right?
I mean, the Academy gave it 16 nominations. That's the most ever of any film in history, for the history of the Academy. So this is the 98th year, I think. So
yeah,
clearly the membership, which in the last few years has gotten much more diverse and also younger, allowed it to sort of become a major player in this season. But yeah, of course, the studios are not thrilled about what Warner Brothers did for them.
And it'll be interesting to see whether those 16 nominations are intended to be the recognition or whether that's an indication of momentum and how many of those will it have a chance to actually take home when it comes down to, just voting within the five. And I think that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Honestly,
I mean, I feel personally, I feel like they'll give Coogler a screenplay nomination, or a win, maybe, rather, because he's already got the nomination. I think some of the technical categories, but I think, some of the others like sound will probably go to F1 and, as interesting as it looks and how sort of steeped in deep South sweat and heat and water that movie is. I don't know if it sort of claims as much attention as some of the others, although it also has a female DP in Arkapaw. So, maybe it wins cinematography as well. And certainly music. Everyone loves that composer, whose name just escapes me at the moment, who works with Nolan as well. So I think it has a fair chance of sweeping a lot of the tech categories.
Time will tell.
Göransson, that's his name. Ludwig Göransson.
And
I think it's Ludwig.
For listeners at home, if you're interested in those other categories, don't take our word for it. Hey, technical categories, we got another episode on that. Either it's already out or it'll be out before the ceremony. So subscribe now if you haven't already. Now I'm getting ahead of myself on closing. Let's first talk about films that we might have liked that didn't make this list. I'll say up front that this is the first time I can remember in many years while we've been doing this that I'm actually very happy with the slate. Like, I like all 5 of these films. There's no film on here that is an affront to humanity, as there have been in past years. That's unusual for me, that there's nothing that I definitely want to replace. But let's hear what other films you guys think might have been overlooked or maybe deserved a little more attention for directing than they got.
For me, it was Frankenstein. I would have put Frankenstein on here before Marty Supreme, as opposed to before Sentimental Value. I thought Frankenstein was beautiful. It was so Guillermo del Toro in just everything it does. I really enjoyed watching it. The script was a little on the nose every now and then with some of the tropes, and maybe that's why, but that doesn't have to do with the directing was fantastic in that movie.
Yeah, I keep going back and forth between Frankenstein and Sentimental Value myself. Like, I liked it enough. When I put it in my nominations, Frankenstein was on the list. And now that I've seen Sentimental Value, now I'm like, maybe I should just go back. The 2 that I had on my list that I haven't seen anywhere else, well, Secret Agent, I thought was really great. That was my number 3. One Battle was number 1. And my number 2 was It Was Just an Accident, which I saw. I really love the Iranian movie. The director has an arrest warrant out for him right now. They shot on the street in Tehran and around. Like, I don't know how they did what they did. I loved the movie, and it's extremely relevant right now too. I think it's worth checking out. I think everything else, I was like, this has got to be the international, if nobody else is going to touch it, win. But I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, I think for me it was also Frankenstein, and I say that as somebody who, I'm sure the people come after me for this, but I've not been that much of a Del Toro fan before this. I did like The Shape of Water, but I didn't love The Shape of Water. I've sort of always thought, like, boy, that guy's a fantastic creature designer and production designer. I've never thought like he's an amazing writer and a director, but this movie felt different to me, and I think that's because he's wanted to tell this particular story for so very long. And yeah, it was gorgeous. It was gorgeous, and it was emotional in places. And I thought the 2 male actors in particular were great, but I thought Jacob Elordi was like, wow. I mean, really incredible.
Shaun, I'm with you. I haven't always been the hugest Guillermo del Toro fan. I can appreciate what he does, but it's like, I'm not going to wait in line opening night to go see his movies. Yeah. So I kind of expected that with this one also, but then I was pleasantly surprised about how almost restrained he was, Guillermo del Toro, about being Guillermo del Toro. But then, so it let other sides come out, and I think he grew as a filmmaker. I think you can see him evolving from, let's tell this creature story, to let's tell the story that happens to have a creature.
Yeah, I mean, the other movies are very much about the creatures being the creatures, and this movie is about the creature having humanity.
Right.
And I think for me, it was kind of the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I also think that film. I also really liked Frankenstein. I'm really glad I got to see it in the theater rather than waiting for Netflix. It was just really an experience. My relationship with Guillermo del Toro's filmography arc maybe is a little different. I like his really early stuff, like The Devil's Backbone, and I think Pan's Labyrinth was really, honestly, maybe even still my favorite film of his. When that came together, the stuff he's done more, even the I'm a Hellboy fan, but his Hellboy movies and even Shape of Water, these I don't think it was like he was doing it, but it didn't quite come together for me. This is the first time that we felt like he returned. Although again, I also really liked Pinocchio for what it's worth. That was a great bit of filmmaking as well. But this really came together, and I think it goes back to what I was alluding to earlier as well. When you have all these technical categories doing amazing and all really rowing in the same direction with clearly his vision, I just think that's something to his credit that I think, he would have been a welcome addition to this slate.
And I think the DGA got it right. This one over Marty Supreme. Just saying.
Any thoughts about Wicked for Good getting blocked out? We talked about Wicked a little bit when we revisited last year's Oscars. Slew of nominations for part one, the mislabeled part one. I know there's no part one of the title, but then really nothing this time. Not that it's necessarily going to be up for director, but I was a little surprised about that not showing up anywhere.
I mean, they shot it as one movie, though, didn't they? It was just one movie that the studio split into two, and they did award it. I mean, they gave it some awards for the first one. Ariana, I think, was nominated, and maybe one, and I think costume design, maybe production design. So I feel like they were like, well, we already gave stuff to that movie, and this is technically just the same movie with a different title on it.
I think they filmed them together. They knew they were making two movies, but that was a studio conversation, I think, that took place before they started rolling on it. So yeah, I think to your point. But Shaun, do you have both now? Wasn't your daughter like in that the length of the first one? Or you have that? Are you?
My son, he loved both of them. I've been fortunate to have a friendship with Michelle Yeoh for a lot of years now, and he calls her Auntie Michelle, and so he's obsessed with watching Auntie Michelle be bad to everybody. But yeah, he did like it. I personally did not like the second one as much. I'm not a huge fan of modern musicals anyway, but I did enjoy the first movie. The second one, I was like, okay. I mean, fine, but more of the same.
Anything else we want to recognize before we wrap on this? Great being here, you guys. Thanks so much, as always. On that note,
I was gonna add one thing. I think it's pretty clear that Paul Thomas Anderson is probably going to win the Oscar. He's just won the DGA award, but I just want to say that, you know, the movie has become political by the nature of some of the elements of the story, even though it started being developed 20 years ago. There are a lot of people that I've even talked to that said, oh, I turned it off after the first 20 minutes. I couldn't watch it, you know, and I was, you know, just thinking in terms of, you know, this is a show with a bunch of DGA ADs. So what he's done here is to me almost one of the hardest things you can do as a director, which is to impose order on chaos without sanding the edges down. For any specific audience or any sort of type of people that might come out. And granted, I guess in some sense, the movie's not been a massive hit, you know. I think they may have alienated some of the audience in there, but I think where most of these movies that are on this list this year are very well crafted and very well intentioned and very sort of tidy and clean and well told, he's really gone the other way with One Battle After Another. He doesn't aesthetize the chaos of it. He just organizes it. And I think because of that, the film feels very alive and volatile, and yet it never loses. It never gets lost. And like Katie was saying, you don't feel the runtime. You're just like on this momentum that just pushes you to the end. And so I think where the other nominees in all of these films are sort of directed towards clarity and silence and calm, he's directed towards chaos and confusion, and that is much harder to pull off. So that's my feeling on why he'll most likely win.
Yeah, I think
Hard agree. Plus, sorry, I was going to say, I mean, a small part of me really wants Sinners to win because I loved everything about that movie also, but I'd be very happy with One Battle After Another.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's Chloé Zhao to win just because there's just not enough female directors nominated. So yeah, again, I don't see however it actually works behind the scenes on who gets the win on this. I think five worthy nominations, and we'll find out in a couple of weeks. On that note, we'll call it a wrap. Once again, great seeing you guys.
Great to see you.
Thanks, kid.
Thanks, kid.
This was episode 8 of our Academy Awards series, and with the ceremony, as mentioned, only a few weeks away, we've still got lots of Oscar insights to share. Subscribe now to the series if you haven't already so you don't miss an episode. If you've been watching us on YouTube, please share your thoughts. My email address is skid@belowtheline1word.biz. That's B-I-Z, and I'm always grateful for your feedback. Closing credits, thanks to Curtis Five for our music and John Wan for our logo. The logo is available on t-shirts, mugs, and stickers at redbubble.com. Bill is wearing his t-shirt today. Thanks, Bill. You got the memo. To all of our listeners on YouTube,
it says it right way, though. It says it the right way on when you actually get it.
To all of our listeners, where was I? To all of our listeners and YouTubers, I appreciate you. Please rate us wherever you get your podcasts and tell your friends. That's how we get new listeners. Thanks again from Below the Line. And thanks all of you for putting up with this. I mean, any one of you could have stepped up to AD it if you wanted it to go smoother, but as it is.
You're not paying me enough to AD this.
And I would report you if you had Shaun do it.
Sean's promises he's going to be DGA one of these times. Sean, what I really wanted to ask you last year, Shaun, with your son, and you liking the long movies for your son, is whether or not you got him into The Brutalist yet. Have you rolled that out to keep him busy for,
No, I think I'll save that one for a while.
Like ties into what you said.
My little boy,
irreconcilable as a recommend.
My little boy, my little boy is being steeped in the 80s right now, and recently said to me, "Dada, when can I watch Beverly Hills Cop?" He's 6. And I said, well, you probably have to wait a little while for that. I think I was 9, so a couple of years. And he was like, but what if I think I'm ready now?
Well, say, okay, well then if you find art buried in coffee, what does that mean, son? That's I always think.
Bearer bonds. Yeah. Bearer bonds.
Till next time, guys.